Welcome back everyone to Simplistic Fishing. My name is T.O. I'm going to be walking you guys through a lake breakdown tonight of Lake Taylorville. This one's in Taylorville, Illinois, just south of Taylorville. So I had a user request this one. This one looked like a pretty cool one. So definitely one I could go through a video with you guys and show you what I found. So here we are out here on Google Earth. If you've never been through a lake breakdown with me before, pretty much what we're going to do is we're going to walk through what we were able to find using the Google Earth side, so using the satellite imagery, and then we're going to switch over and we're going to look at this thing from a contour perspective and see what we can find from offshore hotspots. Now I think we're actually looking at Washington County Lake right now, so let me move this back to Taylorville. And if you missed the Washington County one, we've got that one out there, but now we're going to go to Taylorville. Now we're in the right spot. We always know it's Taylorville too because if it's right just below the city, but it's also got ice on it. When I look at it in 2024, it's all iced over. So it looks like a really cold area, especially with me being here from Texas. But let's go ahead and take a look at this thing. I'm going to go up here to the top and I'm going to draw this back to 2015. That gives us about the best image that we can find. Now this lake did not have a lot of fluctuation on it at all. It actually had, I think, probably just a few years where I could actually see some stuff that was exposed. The rest of it was all just kind of junk imagery. I wouldn't able to necessarily see too much at all. But Lake Taylorville, just so you know, is a 1,200-acre lake. It's located in Christian County, Illinois, and it was created in 1962 by damming up the South Fork of the Illinois Sangamon River, and it was built for water supply and recreational purposes. It's about 6.5 miles long and 0.4 miles wide. So not a huge lake, but definitely enough to where you can definitely go out and do some fishing. So let's talk about what we found here. Over on the left-hand side, if we look and see how we have this categorized, we have the channels and ditches. Now I didn't see a ton of channels and ditches on here. The only ones I was really able to find was there was one way up here at the top that had a pretty good channel that I was able to mark. You can see that with the track, and pretty much the purpose of that is if you're out here fishing and you put these waypoints and the tracks into your graphs, you'll know exactly where those channels are or where those ditches are. Now in this lake, since you're not really fishing creek channels, it's probably not as big a deal, but it could be if you get down in here, maybe the water's up and you want to make sure that you're staying in the channel. But again, with this lake, it looks like it's going to be pretty obvious where you're at in the channels, but I've got those marked for you guys. We've also got the covered structure. Now this can be a lot of different things. There wasn't a lot past, this area down here. There was some rock and stuff down here, but as far as, things that I found, I really didn't find too much from a satellite imagery. You can tell from that whole bottom side, but up here, there was some pretty good stuff. So we'll go over that here in a minute and I'll talk about what we found. Now we also have offshore hotspots. Now you'll notice when I click that, they popped up really quick and then they went away, and that's because you actually have to be on the year that I imported them in, which would have been 2024. So if we click this back, it's going to bring our timeline back to 2024. But here you can see the offshore hotspots, and these are the ones that we're going to talk about once we switch over to the Navionics mobile app and I show you this thing from a contour perspective. Now let's go ahead and take a look at this. We've also got ramps and slabs, a few of them there, and then finally all the different areas on this lake that have rocks. So let's go ahead and select everything except for the offshore. We're going to take that off, so we'll talk about that in a minute. I'm going to draw this back to 2019 so we can get a better image here. I think it was 2019. There we go. 8 of 2019 kind of seems to be the best. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to take this and make it go away so we don't have to see the whole thing. So now we can see the entire picture on Google Earth. So let's just start down here at the bottom and we'll just work our way up to the top, and then we'll come back down the left-hand side, check out that side, and then we'll switch over to the Navionics. So I told you guys about here. Here's a nice little creek channel that winds through here. So you definitely, if you could get back in here, I don't even know if you can get back in here, honestly. The way this has it blocked off right here, I don't even know if you can fish back here, but if you can, there's a decent little creek channel back there. It looks like it's pretty shallow back here too. There's definitely some rock, around riprap and rock around these roads. You can see all the rock here that we've marked all around these roads. And then finally, when you get over here, I think I know you can definitely fish on this side. It doesn't look blocked off at all. So let's just start there. We got a little bit of riprap there. We move up here, some decent docks, around the points. You could always try those docks that are out on the edges of the points. Those are typically high percentage docks like this one right here, or these up here right off and around the edges of the points. Those are going to be your higher percentage docks. You've also got a little bit of rock here. If you zoom in here, you can see we got a little bit of rock around a little rounded point that's in here. And this looks like a spillway, maybe the dam, not sure what that is, but it doesn't look like for sure you can't get a boat back in there. So I didn't mark anything there. We're gonna move over. Now remember, we haven't talked about offshore stuff, but when we do, we'll look at it from a contour perspective. But you can obviously tell just by looking at this, that this point is probably gonna be a productive point. And why do I say that? Because you got water flowing right down across it. And it jets out into the middle, not the middle of the lake, but it jets pretty far out into the lake compared to all the other points around it. So that's definitely going to be a high percentage point to look at. So right in there, you definitely want to look at that. Now zoom it up. As far as the stuff we found, we got some more rock that's in here as well. We've got some pipe that's back in here, was kind of hidden, but if I zoom in here, you'll see it. You can see it coming through here. I think that's a pipe. Guess it could be a big laydown, I'm not sure. And then as we move on up, looks like I missed a ramp right here. There may be a ramp right there. It's hard to tell. Maybe an old ramp right there. That might be why I didn't mark it, because I wasn't for sure, but you might want to check that out right in there too. Those are always interesting spots. And let's move on up. See what else we got. We got some more rock back in here, right off of that dam that's built back there. A little bit of rock in here just around the seawall and stuff. Nothing too crazy. We're gonna move on up. We got, again, more riprap and rock around these dams that are built on the backs of these coves. Those are probably gonna be pretty good places, especially in the fall, before it starts to freeze over, obviously. And then, obviously in the springtime too, when they start getting back in there, when they start pushing to the backs of the coves, they're gonna push that bait up onto the backs of those things, and these things are gonna probably load up with a lot of bait. So we're gonna keep moving on. We've got some more slabs, some ramps. Now, if you've never watched any of the lake breakdowns videos with me before, those slabs and ramps can be sneaky little places. The fish attract to that. There's a lot of algae and stuff, so it brings in the bait fish. The bait fish comes in, obviously the bigger fish come in. So fishing around those slabs can be a productive pattern sometimes, so you definitely want to check it out. So we were also talking about points. Obviously, this would be a good point too. You can just tell by the way this thing flows that point is probably going to be a pretty good point. If that one's not the good one, then this one is, but somewhere around in here there's a good point, probably all of them, this one, and even down in here. And we're going to move on up. We got some more rock that's up here. You can just see along the shoreline, nothing too crazy. Again, this one was a little bit tougher because from a satellite perspective, just didn't have a lot of good satellite images, but you can see we marked where we found laydowns. We've marked where we found all the different rock. You can see it all through here. A little bit more rock in there. This image actually, the trees are too big, so let me see if I can draw this back to where those trees aren't there. It's taking a minute. There we go. Now you can actually see where we found that rock. So I drew that back to 2015 if you're trying to follow along with me. Then I'm going to pull back out here, see what else we can find. We've got a little bit more rock back in here, and then there's that little channel that I was telling you about. You can tell there's a little creek that runs back through here too. So this can be a productive little area with the creek flowing through here. Certain times of year, obviously, you're not going to go in there in the middle of winter and catch a bunch of fish, but certain times of year, those are going to be really productive areas. We're going to move back in here. Just a lot of rock all along around the seawall. Could be a nice little place to go out, throw a little square bill, something like that, and just real shallow kind of fishing, and definitely be able to pick up a few. You've got a little more rock in here as well. Then you kind of go through these points, and didn't see a lot of rock on these points until I got over here, and then I could definitely see where there was a lot of rock right in here. And a lot right in there as well. Then we're going to get up here to the dam. Didn't really see too much by the dam, but did see some pretty good spots up in here. Obviously, you got all this rock that's around here, around this point. Just fishing around this point is probably going to be a pretty productive little area. Then you've got some shallower rock that's back there. I'm not sure if it's worth fishing or not. Got some more rock here. This looks awesome right here. You can see that it goes way out, and it's really, really rocky, but I believe if I move that date up, I was thinking that it got covered up, but maybe it doesn't. No, it never really gets covered up, but I guarantee that's a good spot. Just based on the way that it looks, it gets covered up a little bit. There, it's pretty far out there. So you may have a foot or two at least of rock before it drops off, but just the way that that's situated just looks like a really good spot. That's probably, to me, the best looking spot we've seen so far on the lake. Then we'll keep moving back. We've got some more rock along the seawall there, a little bit more rock through here. Just the random little rock areas. We do have a little bit of debris that was out here underneath this dock. At one of the times of the year, this thing was all broken up, so hopefully there's still some debris there, and the fact that it's off the edge of that little point, that can make it really good too. Just a couple more rocky areas back in here. And then as we move back down south of the lake, get back in this little cove back here. This one looks kind of interesting. You got some stuff you may be able to flip around. You got a little island back here, and then you've got this little rock that's back in here as well. Again, more springtime or fall time fishing, but definitely some good stuff back in there. A little bit more rock out in here, some debris down here you can check out. Don't know what this is, but you can see it there on the imagery. And then move down, we got some laydowns that are back in here. Got a pretty decent little laydown that's hanging out here off the edge of this point. It's probably one where you could just swing by and catch a few every once in a while, just around that laydown, because I'm sure they collect there. And then we've also got some more laydowns in here. You can see like around this point. So if that laydown thing's going on, that could be good. And then you've got a little debris that's over here as well, probably from an old dock or something like that that was there. Then we're gonna move down, more laydowns obviously through here. So I just marked those for you. You can see all the laydowns through here too. Just marked them when we found them. There was some debris that was out here. I don't know if it's gonna show up on this image. I might have to keep moving it around for me to be able to show you, but there's some debris right out there in that area. So just scan that area and see if you can find it on one of these dates. And I can't find it, and I don't wanna make you guys dizzy on the video, but on one of these dates, I could see some stuff in there. I don't know if it was rock or what it was, but there's definitely something out there. And then of course, off this point, if you look off the edge, some pretty good rock off the edge of that point too. Then we're gonna get down here, and we really, again, didn't see much. Once we got here, and you can see the different color of the water too, you can tell it probably gets pretty shallow. You can see it's pretty clean here, and it's kind of dirty over here, and then it's way dirty. But this little thing here, and for you guys locals, you probably know, it doesn't look like you can really go past that. So if you can go past it, again, you've got that rock down there. If you can't go past it, you've got a lot of rock in this area. Just check it out. I mean, you got the rock on the point, you got the riprap along with this stuff. You've got some pinch points in here. You got some more rock that's back in here as well. I could see this being a little spawning area, and it's pretty well protected, things like that. So definitely look in those types of areas. So the only thing really we have left to do now is we've got to go back, and we need to look at the offshore stuff, right? We've covered everything that was on here except for the offshore stuff, and I think the offshore stuff is probably going to be key to catching some pretty decent fish on this lake. So let's go ahead and pull that up. I'll show you guys right here really quick what it looks like from this side of the fence, and then we're going to switch over to the Navionics mobile app and actually look at it from a contour perspective. So this is what it would look like if you were just looking at it from a satellite perspective. Remember that point we talked about? We've got it marked from an offshore standpoint, that point as well. But we're going to go in there, we're going to talk about some of this stuff and see what we can find. Let's switch over. So now we've switched over to the Navionics mobile app, and let's take a look at this lake from the offshore standpoint. Because like I was saying, it's going to be a lot different than what we just saw on the Google Earth side. So this lake has some very interesting contours. Let's start down here at the bottom. Remember I was telling you it's really shallow back here. As you can tell, it's only like 1 to 2 foot. So not sure much is going on back here anyways. And then of course over in here, this is where I was talking about that shallow area for the spawning possibly. But everything looks pretty shallow down here. But you start getting decent depth when you get out here towards the middle. You got like 5 foot out here. So this little point would be the first point, I would say, from an offshore standpoint that may be pretty good, but you're still looking in some pretty shallow water here. Then we go on up, stays pretty shallow, so not a lot of offshore stuff. This point here possibly could be pretty good. It has some decent depth to it. It goes out to 9 foot, but just the fact that it's a point and the way that it's setting up on the contours, especially the way that you see the contours over here, how they're pretty steep over here. Right here as well, pretty much they step down and they just drop into 9 foot. So you might have something right around there, like right around that little area of the point there. Then we're gonna move on up. Next thing that we're gonna see up here is this next point, and this one looks even better. You can tell here we're in 9 foot, but look how tight the contours are here. So it means you've got a really good little drop going on around that point right there. And then also at the top up here, you see the same thing, really tight contour lines. Means you've got a really good drop, a really good point to fish around. Probably a decent looking, almost like a little ledge that's there. And that thing goes on up throughout this whole entire lake. So let's just pull up here and let's take a look at these real quick. So this one right here, kind of the same thing, right? You see how steep these contours are. If we move the cursor out on the phone right here, this is 11 foot of water. But then we get up here, we're in like 1 foot of water. So there's definitely a good drop going on right there where you see those contours. So right here, right here, right here, and then over here, you have pretty much the same type thing, right? It comes out, you've got a decent little drop, so pretty good little sharp drop right off the edge of a point. That's always gonna be a good place to look from an offshore standpoint. And then this over here is just this island. It looks like there's a little island out here. If I zoom in, you'll see it. But on the right side of the island, or the east side of the island, probably not much going on. It looks pretty shallow. But on this side of the island, the west side of the island, it looks like it drops pretty good, down to 8 or 9 feet, even gets down to about 15 foot if you pull off of that just a little bit. So if you're gonna fish around the island, definitely fish on the back side of the island right there. Then let's move on up, and again, we see that entire ledge. We're just really pointing out the key spots on those ledges. So right here on the ledge and a point meets. Right here, ledge and a point meets as well. And what's cool about this is you can actually get out here. You'll see these coves, and I'm sure a lot of people are gonna wanna go in and fish the bank line, right? Because that's kind of the easiest thing to do in fishing. But what you should really do is stay out here off this edge. You could even put your boat here and cast this way out towards the middle of the lake and probably catch fish up off this ledge, casting that way and then bringing it back, casting that way and bringing it back. So pretty good stuff here. Another good point here, pretty good drop right here, and then it's shallow right here, and then has a really nice drop right around those docks. So these kind of the areas that I would be looking at for sure. There's not a lot going out in the middle of this thing, but then we get up here, a couple more areas, really key areas, and these are all really based on the contours, and they should pop out to you. If they don't, hopefully watching these types of videos are gonna help you, because anytime you see these tight contours, you've got a pretty steep drop or a ledge or something like that going on. So right here, obviously around these points is gonna be a great spot. Same thing here around this little point comes out. That one looks like it could be pretty good. That's the one where the rock was. So we've got it marked as offshore, but we've also got it marked as rocks. That one's gonna be a pretty good spot. These two were a little bit deceiving from Google Earth. You couldn't see them, but that's probably gonna be some pretty good spots right in there. That point that we talked about with all the riprap and the marina back there, off the edge of that is probably gonna be a really good spot, especially with that pinch point being there. And then on the back side of it as well, if we pull up here, you'll notice these contours all kind of go into this one little area right here. And typically when you have that where it's tapering down, if you get off the edge and fish right around the edge of that, that's typically where they'll set up at areas like that. So that again, it's going to be another high percentage spot. Now, as far as the other stuff, I'm sure there's other offshore stuff here. There could be stuff under the water too that I couldn't tell. I look for, different types of fish attractors and brush piles and things like that that might be in Lake Taylorville, but was unable to find them. So hopefully what you've learned today and what we were able to show you on what we found on Google Earth, plus what we found on the Navionics mobile app, hopefully that will help you guys get on some fish. Make sure to go out, check out our website, simplisticfishing.com. And until next time, I hope you catch your PB. Take it easy.